Welcome and good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whenever you're actually able to view this session. Thank you so much for this opportunity. A big thank you to Eugene McCowan, who is the founder and CEO of WeSERVE, and then of course WeCARES program. Thank you so much for this partnership. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share vital information on personal development. So we're going to dive right in this morning. As you guys are coming in, please feel free to comment in the chat, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have as we move forward in this session. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here with you all. All right, hopefully you all can hear me well. Okay, so let me go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Ms. Ayana Meeks. I am the CEO and founder of Healing Hearts to Heal. And we are so grateful, again, as stated, to be partnering with WeServe, WeCares, as we reach the community. This segment is our personal development segment, and this is our third session. So I do encourage you to hop online, and I'll give you that information at the end of this presentation today, to go back and look at some of our other sessions and some of our other workshops. And my hope is that you will gain some information, new information that you can use, and then also to share with others. Okay. Healing Hearts to Heal was founded in 2021. I currently hold a bachelor's degree in sociology, and I also hold a master's in educational counseling. I am currently a middle school counselor. I've been a counselor for, I think I just finished my 9th year. So this information is what I do daily as I counsel students. So I love this information, so I'm really excited to bring this information to you. Okay. As I stated before, this is session number 3. And so what we're going to be talking about today is creating healthy relationships. Okay. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the definition of relationship. Okay. And some of this might seem very basic, but we need to start with the foundation. So we're going to start with the definition of relationship. And the way in which what a relationship is, the way in which 2 or more concepts, objects, or people are connected, or the state of being connected. The state of being connected by blood or marriage. And then the third one is the way in which 2 or more people or groups regard and behave toward each other. That picture's a little blurry. I do apologize for that. So today we're going to look at 4 types of relationships. These I felt like really describe the types of relationships that we will find ourselves in. So there are many different types of relationships. This section focuses on 4 types of relationships. Okay, family relationships, friendships, acquaintanceships, and romantic relationships. Okay. So when we look at the first type, we're looking at family relationship. And so who can be included in a family relationship? You have your parents, you have siblings, you have aunts, you have uncles, cousins, grandparents. Maybe it's an adoptive family. Then you have in-laws, okay? And those come in by way of marriage, right? And so then we have, so then our family becomes extended, okay? But this is kind of the general makeup of a family relationship. Because when we talk about relationship, the first thing when we hear the word relationship, we always attribute it to a marriage or a dating situation. But relationship, as we just read in our definition, is a connectedness of people, okay? And that can look a number of different ways, right? So this is a family relationship, okay? The next one we're going to talk about type 2, which is friendships, okay? And under friendships, I deal with this on a day-to-day basis, especially with our young people in the middle school and elementary, high school, even in adult, even with adults, excuse me. So breaking down what types of friendships are we looking at, right? What kind of friendships? So we're going to start with maybe you have a best friend, okay? This is the person who simply just gets you. The ability to flex and endure when life gets in the way. So maybe like temporary setbacks, you may not talk to the person all the time, or things may happen. Somebody moves away or gets married or has children. And so those things are happening, but this person is like, you're super connected. I have a best friend and we've been best friends for 30 years. That's a long time. And all those things have happened. Life has gotten in the way a little bit, but that has not broken our bond as best friends. This is the person you confide in. This is the person that you feel safe to tell, all of your, you feel all of your insecurities with. They know your quirks. But that doesn't taint the friendship. Okay, that's why it says the ability to flex and endure. All right, so that's your best friend. Close friend is one you can reach out to for support. You can, of course, your best friend is going to do all those things, right? Love you unconditionally, be there for you if you ever need anything. Hands down, they're there. Okay, but a close friend, you may not confide all of your deepest secrets or tell them everything that you would tell your best friend. And a close friend, they'll kind of know you, may get you sometimes, may not, but this is a person that you can reach out for support. It's a close friend you can talk to, you can process things through, and you feel safe to do that with, okay? Then you have just a friend, right? And so friends are people that you socialize with regularly. Okay, then you guys hang out, maybe y'all go to the movies, you go to dinner, you go hiking together. They're people that you hang out with regularly. They're a friend. Can you talk to them about some things? Yes. But you're not going to share the things that you share with a close friend. And you're definitely not going to share the things that you share with the best friend. But these are friends that they're a part of your life regularly, okay? Then you have your acquaintances, okay? An acquaintance those are the people we know well enough to make small talk with on a regular basis, but they're not going to get an invite to the party. Or call if we need assistance. We're not going to call those people. All right. Those acquaintances are, if you're in school, maybe this video, this recording is going to be able to, a teen is going to see, maybe a young person's going to see. But then too, this information is also for adults as well. Acquaintances are people you work with. You see them every day, you say, hey, but they're not the person that you're going to indulge everything in with. You're not going to share that with those people, right? And can you build friendships at work? Absolutely. You surely can, right? Can somebody at your job then become your close friend? Absolutely. Okay. They can even become a best friend, right? So just to break down within friendships, there are levels to that friendship. Okay. And this is all going to make sense at the end. All right. So those are our 4 categories under top 2, which is friendships. Then we have top 3, and that's our romantic relationships. Okay. So a romantic relationship is one in which you feel very strongly attracted to the other person, both to their personality and often also physically. This is reciprocated by the other person in the relationship. A romantic relationship is that which exists between a boyfriend and a girlfriend, or spouses in a marriage, or life partners in a civil partnership or long-term unmarried relationship. Okay. And that doesn't need any more explanation than that. We understand romantic relationships. Okay. All right, so what we're talking about today is creating healthy relationships. How do I create a healthy relationship? And not everybody knows what that means. Not everybody knows what that looks like. Everybody does not know what that should feel like, okay? So we're gonna dive into that today, all right? So the first thing we're gonna do, now that we've established the definition of relationship, we've looked at the 3 different types of relationships that we mainly find ourselves in, okay? So with family, a romantic, and then friendships, right? Okay, so we're looking at those, but let's look at the characteristics of a healthy relationship, okay? So that way we know what we should be looking for, okay? So the characteristics we're going to be talking about today is honesty and vulnerability, mutual respect, trust, forgiveness, and communication. And we're going to dive into these today. Again, if you have any questions, please go ahead and put those in the chat, and I'll be happy to address those questions that you have. Okay. All right, so let's start with honesty and vulnerability. Okay, I am a word girl. I love definitions because I feel like they bring clarity to the meaning, of course. So honest, adherence to the facts, fairness and straightforwardness, okay? Simple, okay? You're straightforward. There's no lies in being honest, okay? Vulnerable, capable of being physically or emotionally wounded, open to attack or damage. And I know this sounds like, oh my goodness, but we're going to dive into that, and we're going to look at that, the word vulnerability. Honesty, I'm not going to dive into that because that is really straightforward. That's no lies. You know, you want to definitely be honest in any relationship that you have, whether it's family, whether it's your friendships, whether it's your romantic relationships, okay? Honesty is always the best policy, okay? So that's pretty self-explanatory. Vulnerability, though, we're going to dive into that. So vulnerability sounds like truth and feels like courage. Truth and courage aren't always comfortable, but they're never weakness. Next quote, vulnerability is the birthplace of love, belonging, joy, courage, empathy, and creativity. It is the source of hope, empathy, accountability, and authenticity. And those are 2 quotes from Brené Brown, okay? You're more than welcome to look her up. Wonderful encourager, motivational speaker. You can see her on Tisha's TED Talks. But I love these quotes here, especially the first one, vulnerability, because when we read the definition of that, it says capable of being physically or emotionally wounded, open to attack or damage. And so When we're vulnerable, that means we're opening up ourselves to somebody. And for some people, that can be very scary to do, because when you share things about yourself, it opens you up to, you know, maybe being embarrassed, the things that you are sharing. And so, but I love this quote because it's saying vulnerability sounds like truth and feels like courage, because it is, right? And so it says truth and courage aren't always comfortable, but they're never weaknesses. And so, but in any relationship, you want to be able to be vulnerable. You want to be able to feel like you're safe to open up, and you're able to share without being ridiculed, without being shamed, without being judged. That's what you want in a relationship. Okay. All right. So being truthful to yourself as well as others. So many of us will rationalize reasons not to share different things about ourselves, because we may feel, okay, vulnerable. Being honest also means being vulnerable at times. So they do go hand to hand, go together, which is why they're clumped together with honesty and vulnerability. Okay. So sometimes we work hard not feeling vulnerable in a relationship. Okay. Because vulnerability, again, as I said, is scary. Okay. Being vulnerable in a relationship helps grow trust and intimacy. Okay. And when we say intimacy, guys, we're not always talking about something sexual. Intimacy is a closeness, right? A security, right? And we want that in every single relationship that we find ourselves in. This is part of creating and building a healthy relationship. Okay, that's what a healthy relationship should feel like and look like. Okay, it all starts with honesty. Okay. All right. All right. So the second piece we're going to talk about is mutual respect. These are things that we want to look for. This is how you, not even look for, but how we create a healthy relationship. Okay. And when we talk about, let's go back to honesty and vulnerability. It's not just for you to do. It's mutual. Okay. You want that coming from both individuals or the group. Maybe you're in a friend group. When we talk about relationship, again, it doesn't just mean two people. It could be a group of people, group of friends, in your family, maybe it's your siblings, with your parents, whatever the relationship is. If you're working with students like I do, I have a relationship with some of my students, and so that's a counselor student relationship. And so definitely honesty and vulnerability. I want my students to come into my office and be vulnerable enough to be open. Okay. And sometimes that vulnerability can mean, I made a mistake. This is what I did. And be safe to know and have the courage to be able to share that in their relationship with me. And then it's my job to make sure I'm also vulnerable with them and honest. Okay. All right. So the next thing that we're going to talk about, an aspect of creating a healthy relationship, is mutual respect. Okay. This is a big one. Okay. And so let's look at the definition, excuse me, of mutual respect. So the first one says a feeling of deep admiration for someone or something elicited by their abilities, qualities, or achievements. Okay. Respect, due regard for the feelings, wishes, rights, or traditions of others. Okay. So you can exhibit respect through positive behaviors, such as listening to your partner's feelings. And when we say partners, guys, some of this is going to say partners, it's going to say couples, but again, It's talking about just that general definition of relationship, okay? Honoring their boundaries, supporting their passions, and talking kindly about them to others. When you respect someone, you hold them in high regard through your actions, your behaviors, and your words, okay? So I love this because we're talking about respect in relationships. What can they sound like? Okay, what can they sound like? And so we're going to take a look at that today. Okay. All right, so respect in relationships can sound like, please, thank you, tell me more, I'm proud of you. What do you think? It's your call. You're doing great. We're all in this together. I trust you. I'm sorry. I don't know. How can I serve you? Okay. Again, this is not an exclusive list. There's probably more, but these are just some of the things in a relationship that we can say that just shows respect for the other person, right? There's nothing wrong with saying please, you know, even with our children. Okay, so I'm not just talking about, when we're talking about family, right? We're talking about parents to children, siblings to siblings, siblings to, I'm sorry, nieces and nephews to aunts and uncles, you know, whatever the dynamic is, grandparents to grandchildren, all of those things, all right? So when we're talking to people, we want to always be able to show respect, okay? In whatever the relationship is that we're dealing with, okay, that we're in, okay? Nothing wrong with saying thank you. Okay, it's simply letting that person know I appreciate you. Okay, I trust you. Those are all wonderful, wonderful ways to show respect to someone. And I love at the bottom, it reminds us that we're talking kindly about them to others. Okay, that's part of respecting, honoring them, honoring the boundaries that they set, you know, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Okay. All right. The next piece we're going to talk about is trust. This is a big one. Okay, they're all big, but trust is really big. Okay, it's a big one. Okay, and so let's talk about the definition here of trust. It says firm belief in the reliability, truth, ability, or strength of someone or something. So again, a firm belief in the reliability, this person is reliable. Truth, they're honest. We talked about that, okay, a few slides back. Their ability, meaning they have shown us in their ability that we can rely on them, okay, that they come through, they're able to, or trust them in their ability to do, like whatever if they say they're going to do something, they're going to do it, okay? Or their strength, the strength of someone or something, right? Okay, so trust is that we trust the chairs that we sit in, right? Because we trust that the maker who made the chair knew what they were doing. And so we can just happily sit down, knowing that we can trust that the chair is not going to break, it's not going to tip over, even if we put it together ourselves. You know, did I trust my ability to put this chair together from Amazon in hopes that it doesn't fall to pieces when I go to sit in it? Okay, so that's just a life example of trusting in someone's ability. Okay, all right. So let's look at trust. So to have trust in a relationship means that you feel a sense of security and loyalty with your someone, whatever relationship you're in, okay? According to Sabrina Ramnoff, who is a psychologist, a clinical psychologist, excuse me, and professor at Yeshiva University, states that it's the basis of a solid relationship, okay? Trust is huge, okay, in any relationship. To trust means to rely on another person because you feel safe with them and have confidence that they will not hurt or violate you. Trust is the foundation of relationships because it allows you to be vulnerable. And we talked about that, right, in a few slides back. And open up to the person without having to defensively protect yourself, okay? Again, that's what Romanoff has stated, okay? All right, so these are very important, guys, that if you don't have a relationship that is built on trust, okay, then you can't really be, it should have been first, to be honest. I should have put this one first, because then there is no honesty, right? Or there's no vulnerability, okay? Hard to be vulnerable with somebody that you cannot trust. You know, can you trust them to hold what you're saying? Can you trust them to make you feel safe in your sharing? Can you trust this person to, you know, hold your secrets or whatever it is you're sharing with them? Can you trust them to love you and respect you? You know, we talked about mutual respect. Can you trust them to be able to do all of those things? Okay, so super, super important that is how you build or create a healthy relationship, okay? And I love how I said create a relationship because that's what you're doing when you are connecting with somebody. You know, I tell the young people that I work with all the time because they're like, oh, that's my best friend. And I say, okay, well, how long have you all been best friends? Oh, since, you know, the beginning of school. And I'm like, oh, so after knowing each other for a month, you guys are best friends, right? And so they don't understand that, you know, the process in building relationship because, you know, a month in, now they're like, well, we're not best friends anymore. And she betrayed me and, you know, she backstabbed me and all of these things. And so I begin to have these conversations with them. You know, what does a healthy relationship look like? How do we create that, right? Okay, so this is important that trust has to be at the foundation, okay? So building trust in a relationship, okay, is very important. This is one of the key characteristics for a long-term healthy relationship, okay? Being faithful to, if you're in a married situation, you know, your partner, your spouse or whatever, or just being faithful even in that friendship, being a faithful friend. That means respecting them. That means, you know, not betraying them, not turning your back on them, respecting those boundaries, okay? But that's not enough. Just being faithful in that relationship is not enough, okay? Both of you must feel emotionally, mentally, physically safe in the relationship. It will be difficult for the relationship to grow without feeling safe, okay? Trust creates that feeling of security and safety, okay? Which is what Dr. Psychologist Professor Romanoff just stated in her statement, okay? Trust is important for intimacy to grow and to feel more connected to each other, okay? Trust is going to build that intimacy with that person. It's going to create, allow you to become more connected with one another, okay? Because it's going to allow you to open up even more. When you can trust that the person is always telling you the truth. If you're in a marriage situation and, you know, you're asking about, you know, money, you know, that everyone's being honest, okay? Nothing's being hidden, nothing's being, you know, no one's telling a half truth to you, that everything is on the table. And so when everything's on the table, then you feel like, okay, I can trust this. You know, this provides me security because I know what's going on. Nothing's hitting, your emotions are not hitting, your feelings are not hitting, your thoughts are not hitting. Everything is on the table, okay? And so this is super, super important. because it allows you to be able to rely on the other person, because you now feel safe with that person. Okay. When you have to question someone's honesty, when you have to question whether someone respects you or not, we should know this as we're in these relationships. And so when we go back to being vulnerable and being open, it also means to be able to say in that relationship, hey, this hurt me, or this made me upset, or, I'm concerned about this, or, I feel something's changing or something's different. And so that's being able to trust that you can say those things in a relationship, okay? But the relationship has to be built on trust, guys. Super important, okay? All right, so that's why we're saying trust as a foundation. Why is it considered a foundation, okay? So when you have trust in a relationship, whatever that relationship is, it promotes positivity, okay? It can reduce conflict, okay? All right, because again, we're talking about being honest, being vulnerable, okay? You're honest with me. I can trust that you're being honest with me. Then it reduces conflict. We're not arguing. We're not going back and forth, because I trust that what you're doing in this relationship, you're being honest, right? You're respecting me. I'm not going to find out something behind my back. I'm not going to, be digging through, I'm trying to wash your clothes and then I find something. We're not doing those things. And so we want to make sure that trust is really at the foundation of that relationship. And then it also increases closeness, which we talked about in the previous slide. Okay. It allows you to be, want you to be more connected to this person. It allows you to put your guards down, or put your walls down. Some might say, I've built up a wall with this person because now I can't trust her. I'm looking at you like this. This is how my relationship looks. Well, really, you want the wall to come down and be able to trust that this is a healthy relationship and it's a safe relationship, okay? So lack of trust can cause what? It can cause a lack of intimacy, okay? You're in a romantic relationship, a marriage, again, the ones we talked about, boyfriend, girlfriend situation, a marriage, a civil relationship, long-term relationship. And remember, again, when we talk about intimacy, we're not just talking about physical, we're not just talking about sexual relationship. We're talking about intimacy as far as wanting to be close and connected, okay? It can cause a lack of that, because now I feel like you're lying, I can't trust you, you're going behind my back, having one conversation and then another conversation. If it's a friend group, you're telling one friend something and then they're acting funny. So all of the things, family members, your family members will go back and tell somebody, another auntie, go to the other auntie talking about the niece. And so it can just get very, very messy. And so then you don't want to come around, right? So you don't want to be at the barbecue. You don't want to be at the family function. You don't want to be at the graduation. So it creates a lack of intimacy, okay? Just not wanting to be around that person or those people, right? It can create negativity. Again, all of that is connected, right? It can create insecurities in people, especially if you're talking about a romantic relationship, but it also can create that, in a family structure, when people are maybe have shared something with you, and then you've gone back and you've talked about it, okay? That can create some insecurity, right? It also can cause depression and anxiety when there's no trust there, okay? When the person feels like they just cannot trust you and they're trying to hold on to the relationship, they're trying to hold on to you know, stick and stay and try to look past things. But after so long, you know, a person can become depressed and go through some anxiety. Okay. And so this is not healthy. Okay. Lack of trust can cause trouble concentrating. Okay. The person is so preoccupied in what's going wrong, you know, because you have shown some type of behavior that I now cannot trust, you know, or this person has shown a behavior that you cannot trust now. So it can leave you all over the place. You know, you're at work and your mind is everywhere. You're messing up on your job because you're, you know, focused on a situation that happened that broke the trust, you know, in that relationship. You know, I have students who are like, I can't even focus on my schoolwork. I can't even, you know, focus on this test I have to take because you know, they're crying, you know, they're, you know, mad, you know, they're angry. And so their mind is not focused on, you know, just doing their normal everyday lifestyle. Okay. And along that lines, it can cause some distress. It also can create some fear. You know, is the relationship going to work? Is this person going to walk out? Is this person not going to want to be my friend? You know, is this person not my friend anymore? You know, if they're your only friend, you know, maybe you don't have very many friends. And so you've created this relationship, a parent-child situation, you know, maybe a parent has done something and has broken the trust with that child. Is my child going to talk to me still? You know, so all of this, you know, this relationships can be very messy and ugly. And so what we're talking about today is how do we create healthy relationships? We have to first understand what a healthy relationship looks like. And so that's why we're talking about these points on tonight, is how do I create that? Okay. And so again, we talked about honesty and vulnerability. We talked about mutual respect. And now we're at the foundation of it all, which is trust. Okay. All right. Whew. All right. The next piece, and this is a big, big one too, is forgiveness. Okay. In any relationship, okay, whatever the situation, whatever the connection is, there must be forgiveness. Okay. At some point, we're going to hurt somebody. At some point, we are going to do something that is going to, or somebody's going to do something to us that we will at some point need to forgive. And I know, I've heard people say, I will never forgive them for what they did to me. Never. I will never forgive because I won't forget. All right. This is deep. Okay. So forgiveness. All right. Let's look at the definition. Definition according to Oxford Dictionary. The meaning is cease to feel resentment against an offender. Okay. So in simple terms, it just means it involves an intentional decision to let go of resentment and anger. Okay. All right. So we're going to dive into forgiveness because I feel like this is a big one. This is the reason why many relationships stay unhealthy. And why, you know, people have a hard time building another relationship, or they move into another friendship. They, you know, if a married couple ends up separating or divorcing and they go into this other relationship, but holding on to all of this unforgiveness can really dilute any other relationship that they may decide to have, okay, if they pursue that, okay. or another friendship, okay? So cease to feel resentment against an offender. Okay, so let's look at this. Let's really dive into forgiveness, okay? So the act that hurt or offended you might always be with you, okay? But working on forgiveness can lessen the act's grip on you. It can help free you from the control of the person who harmed you. Sometimes forgiveness might even lead to feelings of understanding, empathy, and compassion for the one who hurt you. The second point, forgiveness does not mean forgetting or excusing the harm done to you. It also doesn't necessarily mean making up with the person who caused the harm. Forgiveness brings a kind of peace that allows you to focus on yourself and helps you go on with your life. So this is so important. So we're going to spend quite a bit of time on this piece, this forgiveness piece, okay? So the weak can never forgive, okay? Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. And that's a quote by Mahatma Gandhi, okay? And I'm going to read it again. The weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong, okay? Forgiving someone who hurt you is a very difficult task. Letting go of the anger, right, that you feel when someone close to you hurts you and forgiving them can seem impossible at times. And it can seem impossible, okay? Having compassion toward the person who hurt you helps in the forgiveness process. And we talked about that a little, okay, in those two points under forgiveness, okay? Holding on to anger, well, try to remember that most people have feelings, and the person who hurt you most likely feels terrible about what happened. In some cases, some of you might say, no, they felt just fine when they did what they did to me, and they done moved on with their life, and they seem happy-go-lucky, and they don't seem like nothing is bothering them, and they were okay with doing the hurt to me. Okay, there might be a small portion of people who feel like that, but the majority of the time, people do feel bad about what has happened, especially if some time has passed. Okay. But holding on to anger can lead to resentment and bitterness. Okay, excuse me. And that's what we don't want, guys. We don't want that. Okay. Excuse me, lost my note. All right, so try to remember that. So most people again have feelings and they feel terrible. So holding on to anger can what? Lead to resentment and bitterness. These feelings are not good for you psychologically, emotionally, or physically. They are also detrimental to the relationship you are in, and then other relationships in your life. So they don't just affect the relationship that you were in, but it also affects other relationships that you're in, you know, with other people. All right. So this does not mean you need to forgive the person immediately. Forgiveness is a process and individual to those who are experiencing deep wounding. Okay. So let's dive into this a little bit. Right. So let's first start with talking about the benefits of forgiving. Okay. All right, so let's get to this. Excuse me, 5 minutes here. All right, so what are the benefits to forgiving? Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is the first point here is letting go of grudges and bitterness can make way for improved health and peace of mind. Forgiveness can lead to, and these are just a few, okay? healthier relationships, okay? All right. And it allows you to come into another relationship healthy, okay? When we can let go of grudges and bitterness, okay? It allows us to be able to do that. Improve mental health, okay? It improves your mental health, your thinking, okay? How your mind is functioning, okay? All right. Less anxiety, stress, and hostility, okay? You ever seen somebody who's bitter and mad about something? You're like, what in the whole world? They're snapping, they're griping, they're never happy. They wake up in the morning and good morning. And you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You know? And so they don't leave room for peace. They're always anxious, they're stressed out, they're hostile. Okay. When you let go and you forgive, there's fewer symptoms of depression. You're not replaying what happened in your mind over and over and over and over and over. You're letting it go like it happened. I'm sad that it happened, but now I need to free my mind. I need to free my heart. And I'm not going to sit here in my bed all day. I'm going to get up from here and I'm going to move on, okay? When we forgive, it helps lower our blood pressure. Those of us who find ourselves angry and we deal with the blood pressure, right? Those of you who suffer with that, or those who suffer with that, all right? It lowers it. It keeps you at a calm state. It keeps you at an even level, which is where we want to be, okay? It helps to build a stronger immune system. You know, when you hold on to the bitterness and you hold on to the grudges and, the payback, and you're thinking about it and you're replaying it, it can make you sick. It can make you so sick. Because then you start crying, then you get angry, then you get frustrated, and then you can't sleep, and all of these things. And so there are so many healthy benefits in forgiving, okay? In forgiving. Also, it can improve your heart health. Look at that. It can improve your heart health, make your heart healthy, okay? All right, because this is where you hold that stuff in your heart, because your heart was hurt. Whatever this person did or said, it hurt you to the core of your heart. But when we can let it go and we can let go and forgive and move on, it creates a healthy space in our heart, makes our heart healthy, makes our heart happy. Okay? It also can improve your self-esteem, okay? And we're going to talk a little bit about releasing and letting go in forgiveness, but it also means, letting go. Even we're not just talking about forgiving someone else. This also includes forgiving yourself. I don't want to miss that point. Forgiving yourself, okay? Because sometimes we can beat ourselves up so much, all right? Because we just want to keep replaying the mistake. We want to keep replaying what happened, what we said, what we did. And so then it creates this unhealthiness in us and sickness. And so when we can do that even for ourselves, to forgive ourselves or forgive others, it improves our self-esteem, okay? It makes us begin to feel better. We can get to a healthy place to begin to feel better about ourselves, right? Like, yes, I messed up, but it doesn't make me a bad person, okay? That's so important, okay? And we've all been there, okay? All right, so what are the effects of holding a grudge? Now, this is the opposite, okay? So if you struggle with finding forgiveness, you might, one, bring anger and bitterness into new relationships and experiences, okay? You become so wrapped up in the wrong that you can't enjoy the present, right? And it inhibits you from moving on and enjoying new experiences, new things, and the newness of something else, because you're too busy holding on to what happened, the bitterness and the anger, okay? You become depressed, irritable, or anxious, okay? You'll feel at odds with your spiritual beliefs, that's part of it too, right? You lose valuable and enriching connections with others. People don't want to be around you if you're bitter and angry and hostile and you can't move on. People don't want to be around all of that. So it just really devalues any other relationships that you have, okay? Right? All right, so how do I move toward a state of forgiveness? And we're spending a lot of time on this because this is super important in any type of relationship if it's going to be healthy. Okay, it cannot be healthy if we can't forgive faults and we can't move on. Okay. All right, so how do I move toward a state of forgiveness? One, forgiveness is a commitment to change. It takes practice. To move toward forgiveness, you might, look at this, recognize the value of forgiveness and how it can improve your life. And we just talked about that in the previous slides. Identify what needs healing and who you want to forgive. Okay, that could be yourself. It could be a parent. It could be a sibling. It could be an auntie, uncle, friend, cousin, grandparent, whatever the relationship is, right? Identify what needs healing and who you want to forgive. What happened? What needs to be healed? Join a support group or see a counselor. Okay. Acknowledge your emotions about the harm done to you. Recognize how those emotions affect your behavior and work to release them. Okay. Forgiveness is also about self-reflection on yourself, the other person, reflection, like, okay, the root of the problem. All right. So acknowledge your emotions about the harm done to you. Recognize how those emotions affect your behavior and work to release them. Okay. Choose to forgive the person who's offended you. Okay. Just like you have flaws, you have done things, they have flaws too. They made mistakes too, right? Okay. Release the control and power that the offending person and situation have had in your life, because it really builds a prison around you and it locks you in, and you're just there by yourself in this pity party, in this anger, in this bitterness, and it begins to control you, because the other person is probably moved on and living their life, and you're still stuck in the situation. So it's so important that we release the control and the power that the offending person and situation have had over us. Okay, it's a releasing. Okay, what happens if I can't forgive someone? So point number one, forgiveness can be hard. We know this, especially if the person who hurt you doesn't admit their wrongdoing. Honey, they will keep going. They will keep moving. They ain't said, I'm sorry. So if you find yourself stuck here, okay, practice empathy. Try seeing the situation from the other person's point of view, okay? Ask yourself about the circumstances that may have led to the other person to behave in such a way. Perhaps you would have reacted similarly if you faced the same situation. So important, guys. This part is so important, okay? Reflect on times when others have forgiven you. I just talked about that. Okay, we've probably also done things to somebody, all right? So reflect on times when others have forgiven you, when you've asked to be forgiven, okay? Or when somebody's forgiving you when you didn't even ask for forgiveness. You didn't say sorry, you didn't say I was wrong, but that person came to you and said, you know what, I forgive you, okay? Something else that you can do, write in a journal, pray, or use guided meditation, whatever, that quiet time, or talk with a person you found to be wise and compassionate, such as a spiritual leader, your pastor was what I'm talking about, a mental health provider, or an impartial loved one or friend, okay? Somebody that you know is wise. We don't want to take advice from people who do not use wise counsel. They're telling you something that's going to make the situation worse. That's not the person you need to go talk to, okay? Somebody who's impartial, a loved one who's impartial, that can stay even tone. I'm not on nobody's side. I just want to give you what's right, I want to say what's right, give you the counsel that you need that is right, that will cause harmony, that will create harmony and bring resolve. Okay. Be aware that forgiveness is a process. Even small hurts may need to be revisited and forgiven again and again. It is a process, guys. It is not something that just happens overnight. Oh, okay, I forgive you. It doesn't work like that. Okay. Even from the smallest hurts can cut very deep, and it's a process. Okay. All right. Does forgiveness guarantee reconciliation? I know this is a big one for people. Okay, I don't want to be friends with them no more. You know, I forgive her, but she can't be in my life. Okay. All right. So, does forgiveness guarantee reconciliation? If the hurtful event involves someone whose relationship you value, forgiveness may lead to reconciliation, but that isn't always the case. All right. Point number 2, reconciliation might be impossible if the offender has died or is unwilling to communicate with you. In other cases, reconciliation might not be appropriate. Okay. Still, forgiveness is possible even if reconciliation isn't. Okay. So when people say that saying, well, I forgive, but I can't forget. Of course you won't forget. It was a hurt. Of course we'll remember, but our remembering should not give us a reason to continue to stay in unforgiveness. Okay. All right. Especially in a situation where the offender has died. There is no talking. There is no, this person does not have the ability to come back and say, I'm sorry for what I said or what I did. So what do? Do you just hold on to it for the rest of your life and create and hold on to this anger and bitterness and grudge? And then now it's spilling all over onto other people? No, at some point you have to say, okay, we go back to the slide before that talked about reflection, right? Putting yourself in this other person's shoes, right? Would I have responded similar if this was done to me? Or, you know, would I have reacted the same way? So at some point you have to release it and let it go, because it will make you sick, as we talked about before, right? So in certain cases, reconciliation may not happen. You know, if it's a domestic abuse situation, then yeah, it may not be safe for that person to go back to that person, but they've forgiven that person. But hey, there's no way that we'll ever have a relationship again because that was too much for me, but I forgive you. But we cannot stay connected, which is okay. We have to understand that if reconciliation doesn't happen, it is okay. All right. All right. Next, what if the person I'm forgiving doesn't change? So point number 1, or point, getting another person to change isn't the point of forgiveness. We have to make sure we say that. It's about focusing on what you can control in the here and the now. Think of forgiveness more about how it can change your life by bringing you peace, happiness, and emotional and spiritual healing. Forgiveness can take away the power the other person continues to have in your life. So let's not get it all twisted up. That first part is very important. Getting another person to change isn't the point of forgiveness. Okay. That's not the point of it. Okay. It's about focusing on what you can control in the here and the now. Think of forgiveness more about how it can change your life. Okay. I want to have more peace. I want to be happy. I want to have more joy. I want to be emotionally okay. I want to be spiritually healed and okay. I want to be able to live and enjoy my life, okay? And all the things that I'm purposed on this earth to do. I want to be able to do that, okay? All right, what if I'm the one who needs forgiveness? Perfect. The first step is to honestly assess and acknowledge the wrongs that you've done and how they have affected others. Avoid judging yourself too harshly, okay? Don't beat yourself up. If you're truly sorry for something you've said or done and want forgiveness, consider reaching out to those you've harmed. Speak of your sincere sorrow or regret, ask for forgiveness without making excuses. Take accountability for what you've done and ask for forgiveness, okay? You can't force someone to forgive you. Others need to move to forgiveness in their own time. Remember, forgiveness is a process. I'm going to keep saying that. Whatever happens, commit to treating others with compassion, empathy, and respect. So that's important. Whatever happens, if the person never says sorry, if the person does not accept your forgiveness, you still commit to treating others with compassion, empathy, and respect, regardless of what happens in these relationships when it comes to forgiveness. Okay. The last point we're going to talk about today is communication, another important foundational piece to a relationship. Okay. What is communication? A process by which information is exchanged between individuals through a common system of symbols, signs, or behavior. All right. So we're going to run through these points quickly. Communication is the process of exchanging information between two or more people. It can be verbal, nonverbal, written, or through body language. All right. So in a relationship, communication is key to keeping a connection strong. It involves sharing your thoughts, feelings, and needs with your partner or whoever you're in a relationship with, your grandma, your auntie, your cousins, your friends, all right, co-workers, your acquaintances, whatever it is, all right? It is understanding what your partner's body language is telling you and responding to said messages accordingly. So we're not just talking about communicating verbally. It can be through your body language. Again, it said nonverbal, written. It can also be verbal, all right? Last point, effective communication is expressing oneself and responding to your partner or the person you're talking to or relationship with respectfully and avoiding name calling or hurtful words at all costs. Again, goes back to mutual respect, okay? When both partners communicate openly and honestly, they deepen their bond, build trust, and create a stronger emotional connection. That's that intimacy, guys. This is the power of communication in a relationship. Communication is so important. I like to communicate face to face because when you're writing something, it could, or texting, things can be misconstrued. It can be taken out of context. And things can get very messy with that type of communication. So, but communication is not just written. We learn nonverbal, verbal, body language, all of that is important. So we have to get to a position where we can read, we can communicate, and then we can also understand the communication, how that person communicates with you. When you're in a relationship with somebody, you can kind of tell how they're communicating without, they may not even have to say a word, but they may tilt their head or, they, and we know that means, okay, she frustrated, he frustrated. Somebody may pat their head like, okay, she mad, they're mad. So all of these, but you develop that in your relationship, okay? But in that situation, if that person's patting their head and that means they're frustrated, then on your part, I have to communicate, hey, I see you're frustrated. Hey, can we talk? Let's talk about what's happening in this moment, okay? That's again, that honesty, that vulnerability, that mutual respect, that trust, being able to trust that you can talk about it in a safe way, okay? How important is communication? So good communication is essential for any relationship, whether it's between friends, family members, or romantic partners. It's the key to maintaining a strong emotional connection. It allows people to better understand each other. It also cultivates positive patterns of conflict resolution, okay? Those who communicate effectively can what? One, understand the needs and feelings of others. They can express their own needs and feelings, okay? They can resolve conflicts, all right? Those who communicate effectively build trust and intimacy. There that word goes again, guys. They can also show empathy and compassion for others. What is empathy? I can walk in your shoes. Okay, I can understand being in your shoes. All right, okay, and then have compassion for another. They can respect boundaries of another. They support someone through tough times. Those who communicate effectively keep the communication channels open. We don't close, we don't shut down, and I'm not going to talk about it. We just go silent. We talked about that in the last session. You know, that's not a healthy, it's not a healthy coping mechanism to just go silent and don't say anything, right? Because then that builds up that resentment, those grudges, that bitterness, okay, unhealthy, right? People who communicate effectively can also be assertive and not aggressive. Those are two different words. They mean two different things, okay? Assertive is just your way of being able to say in a healthy way how you're feeling. Hey, let's bring the problem to the table, right? We're not aggressive with it. We're not going off and screaming and yelling and cussing and all this kind of stuff, right? We're not doing that because we know how to communicate. We know how to use our words. We learned that when we were in what? Kindergarten, okay, as we were growing up as even babies, when we were learning how to talk. Our parents say what? Use your words. What are you trying to say? Tell me what you want. Tell me what you need. Okay, so that still does not change as we become adults. We still need to verbalize, use our words, tell people what we want, tell people how we feel. Okay. Ways to improve your communication: make time for the other person. Listen more than you speak. Avoid making assumptions, avoid blaming and criticism. Be aware of body language. We just talked about that. Use I statements, okay, instead of accusatory statements. I feel when you do this, it makes me feel, okay? I feel, okay? Be aware of your tone. Sometimes we can say things in such a harsh way, you know, that might not have been what we were trying to do, but that's how it came out, okay? Find out what makes the other person happy. That happens when you communicate. That's how you can improve the communication. That person may say, you know what, it makes me happy when you just tell me how you feel instead of breathing hard, because I don't know what that means. I know it means you're frustrated, but I don't know why you're frustrated. So it makes me happy when you tell me how you feel. Then that way I don't have to guess, okay? Be willing to compromise. It's not gonna always be your way, okay? So what is that saying? Agree to disagree, right? Hey, we don't agree with this, but hey, let's come to some compromise, okay? All right, that's how you improve that communication, all right? And then take breaks if needed. When things become heated, somebody has to just walk away and say, hey, I need to take a break. This is getting a little too heated. I need to go cool off. Or even in the relationship, whatever that relationship may be, maybe some distance needs to happen to improve the communication. So people just have to step away for a minute. Let me process my thoughts. Let me get the words that I need to say. Let me evaluate the situation. Let me reflect on myself. Let me reflect on what you're getting. And then let's come back together. Because now we're thinking rationally. And we talked about that in a few sessions months ago, that rational thinking, okay? All right. All right, so let's look at what an unhealthy relationship is. And we're wrapping it up, guys. All right, so in an unhealthy relationship, of course, going to be the opposite of all the stuff that we talked about that creates a healthy relationship. And let's look at it. So this is just a few. This is not like the, exclusively to these. There could definitely be more. All right, but these were ones that stood out to me. So lack of communication, lack of empathy. If there's abuse going on, whether it's verbal, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, sexual, I didn't put financially, but I'm going to add that on this. I'm going to add that to this presentation. None of those forms of abuse should be happening. None of that is a healthy relationship. Okay. Lack of intimacy. And again, We're not talking about sexual when we talk about this word, right? That's the connectedness, the closeness, right? Drug or alcohol abuse. If someone is doing drugs or forcing you to do drugs or creating that kind of environment, none of that is healthy. Okay. Lack of emotional support, unhealthy. You should be in something, again, when we talk about safety and security and vulnerability and honesty and all of the feeling safe, feeling cared for, feeling loved. All of those things are a part of a healthy relationship. And so lack of emotional support, that goes under that emotional abuse. Okay. If the person is dishonest, if there's some control happening in that relationship, that's unhealthy. Okay. Disrespect, excessive expectations. Okay. This can happen in a family structure. It can also happen in a friendship as well, in a romantic relationship. But what it looks like is parents who place these, a numerous amount of expectations on their kids. Sometimes expectations that really their child cannot meet. And so we can do that too as adults in our relationships, right? That we can begin to expect so much, like sometimes even expecting things that we don't even do, but we expect other people to do that. And so it's excessive. That's too much. It creates stress, it creates anxiety, all of those things. All right. And the last one here I put was breaking boundaries. Okay. If you've set some healthy boundaries in your relationship with whatever, your family, your friends, your husband, your wife, whatever, and those boundaries are broken, okay? All of that is unhealthy, all right? Okay, so we talked about a lot of information here, right? So I always put this slide here in seeking help. That there's numbers that you can call if you find yourself in a relationship that you're like, you know what, now that I've gone through this presentation, I've seen this information, I really think I'm in something unhealthy. I'm stressed out, I'm dealing with unforgiveness, I have issues with trust, and I'm in a relationship and it doesn't seem right, it doesn't seem healthy. Maybe there's some abuse going on, maybe there's a battle with drugs or alcohol, maybe there's some suicidal ideations happening in your mind. You're thinking about it. All of these things can be happening when we're in these relationships. We want it to be healthy, but now we're realizing, you know what? I thought I was in a relationship that was healthy, and now I realize it's really not, and I'm struggling. Okay, here are some numbers that can help you. So the national crisis hotline, those are counselors that are available 24/7. And that number is 741-741. I give this to many students at the school that I work at. You just text home to 741-741, and then it'll connect you to a volunteer crisis counselor. I did list the US number, and I also list if you're outside, if you're watching this and you just happen to see it and you're outside of the United States, the UK is there, and Ireland, those numbers are listed there. And then we have for our veterans, some of us are in relationships dealing with people who have served our country and the traumas that sometimes come with that, dealing with those people who may be suffering from PTSD and have a hard time with relational situations. And so that number is also provided. You're going to text 838-255. Or you're going to dial 988, then you're going to press 1. That's also a 24-hour confidential crisis support line for veterans. Or you can also chat with somebody online by going to www.veteranscrisisline.net. And then the last thing I put there was seek professional counseling, whether it's individual, whether it's couple or family therapy. You can do that by reaching out to your doctor, through your insurance, calling them and saying, hey, I'm seeking out, counseling services. What does my insurance cover? Okay, nothing wrong with seeking help, guys. And again, as the slide previously said, that even includes your spiritual leaders, go to your pastors, talk to, trusted family members, if you can, to our trusted friend. Reach out to those who can help you kind of process, am I in an unhealthy relationship? What's making it unhealthy, whether it's with my mother, with my father, whether it's my sibling, whatever the dynamic is, okay? All right, that concludes our presentation today. Thank you so much for those of you who have joined on with us. Again, I'm going to go ahead and check the chat and answer any questions that anyone may have. Maybe I missed something, maybe something needs to be clarified. I'll be more than happy to do that. I also want ways to reach out. So again, I'm Ms. Ayana Meeks. Healing Hearts to Heal is my nonprofit. You can reach me at healingheartstoheal@gmail.com. And also the founder and CEO of WeSERVE, and WeCARES, who has allowed me to partner with them to bring you this vital information, reaching the community, touching the community. There's other workshops that WeCARES program puts on. First Saturday and then second Saturdays. Please. So to learn more about WeSERVE's WeCARE program, you can visit WeServeVA.org if you would like more information. Thank you so much for this time. Thank you so much, Pastor McCowan, for this opportunity, for this time. I enjoyed the session on today. Hopefully there's some chat questions I would love to answer. Again, thank you so very much. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing the screen. And again, thank you so much. Hopefully you will share this information with somebody. If you like what you heard today, please share the information. Please let, if they have any questions, they definitely can email me, or they can definitely go to, again, WeServeVA.org and get more information. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful and blessed day. Thank you. Bye-bye.